Who's going to pay for that? And I don't think that's the right question to ask. I mean, the whole world population is going to pay for that if we're not doing. That's the answer, actually. It's not who's paying for raising the standard, and this probably should be seen as a cost for some people. But for me, it's investment. It's an investment. And the question that we made is, what makes a good standards in terms of mining? And our answer was to fulfill all the requirements for being for the ICMM, the International Council of Mining and Metals. The ICMM have a lot of standards in terms of nature, in terms of human rights, etc. So we first decided to fulfill the standards, and then we decided, what about join the ICMM? And we become the first Peruvian company that joined the ICMM. We're part of the ICMM for the last 5 years, 6 almost. We are trying not to fulfill only the ICMM standards for the last 6 years. We started to look at another standards to be in terms of sustainability in the always in the top line, in the top, considering the mining sector. So the next step was to look at other standards and try to be part of it, not only for commercial purposes, because of course it is good for our marketing and commercial department to show all the standards that we are following, but also for the specifically for the sustainability of our company, in terms of we want to be what we call it a perpetual mining machine. I'm actually always listen to the same sentence when we started this kind of conversation. Who's going to pay for that? And I don't think that's the right question to ask. I mean, the whole world population is going to pay for that if we're not doing. That's the answer, actually. So at the end, the whole value change is going to put some effort on that. It's not that one's going to pay for all this improvement of the standard. The improvement of the standard is one thing that the whole value chain is going to invest fulfilling that. And at the end, it's for the good of the consumer. Yeah, we started in the team project, which was a very good idea to start with a small market like the tin market. That you can take a look at all the players, at least the formal players. There's a lot of informal players in the tin market, to have a direct contact with them in the upstream and in the downstream. So it was a good decision to start with the tin. We right now can provide full traceability in our mine through all the smelter and give it that information through the blockchain to all our clients. And I know our clients are working to do it the same for their own clients. At some point, and we are not managing that in this point, we should have a final consumer of the tin that was produced in San Rafael with full traceability, and they can rely that they have, I don't know, a cell phone or a laptop computer, and knowing exactly where the tin that is used in that computer, where it comes and what are the standards. It all will be transparent and public. The problem is that you have a market that pays for a bad standard. What we should focus is on how to combat that market that pays for that bad standard. And for me, the blockchain project is one that is going to make the difference, because once the final consumer realizes there are a way to have minerals in my cell phone or in my laptop, that I can have the full traceability of that. So if at the end gold and copper will see blockchain is a possibility, a project in blockchain will fight this very big problem, probably they follow our steps. I can say that probably in the next years you will not find a formal mining company without carbon reduction emission strategy. I mean, that will be like every company should have one, especially mining companies. Right now, the majority of companies, at least the ones that are in the ICMM, the biggest ones, have a strategy with not only a strategy, but with plans, with dates, and a lot of formal ways to follow the plan. But the idea is to have more companies with that commitment. We should not want to have the regulation comes to do the things. What we should have is to raise all the time the standards, seeing that if we're not raising that standard, regulation will come. We should be ahead of that all the time. Why? Because it's the final consumer, the one that dictates all these demands. Our duty is to listen to the final consumers, and if the final consumers are aware that they need to have full traceability on the products that were made of, all the products that they are having in their hands, we should listen to them. And that's the idea. I mean, at the end, we're not going to wait for the regulators. We're not going to wait for the commercial departments to ask for. We're just reading the news and see, well, if the final consumer is really concerned about where the minerals come from, what are the standards, what are the policies in terms of human rights and indigenous populations and all those things are in the concern of the final consumer, we should listen to them and be ahead of that. Just set up a strategy on all these issues. We have a commitment to reduce our carbon emissions. We have a goal for 2030, which is right across the corner, and we have a final commitment for 2050 for being a zero carbon emissions company. So it is really, for a mining company, it's a challenge. We're not alone on that. We're working, of course, with our value chain, the companies that provide trucks, companies that provide energy. We're all together in that strategy, but it's a very ambitious one. We also have initiatives on human rights. We are raising all the standards in human rights internally and externally, and our relationship with communities and our workers to be sure in the whole value chain of Minsur, with all the suppliers and clients, will fulfill a minimum requirement for human rights, and that minimum requirements always get higher and higher, because that's the idea. Finally, we have, of course, a commitment with our communities, to develop our communities. We're working in a very, communities that have a lot of needs, so we got to work together with governments to try to fulfill all the needs from that communities through alliances with public and private sectors, for instance, for public goods. But that's not a new strategy. That comes from the very beginning. The very first day that we went to our communities, they know that their life's going to change, and our commitment is their life's going to change for good, for improve their quality of life. So that's also part of our strategy.